Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Project Fairlady. Now, it's been a bit of a busy, challenging week to get the Fairlady up to the stage where it is now. Lots of little tedious jobs, lots of painting, a lot of assembly work. Overall, I think it's gone pretty well. So if you're interested in seeing on how all of this came together, sit back, relax, and it'll all unfold before your very eyes. So the first thing I want to do is get this radiator in. It's always good to get something that's nice and big and impressive to begin the project. It's just a matter of dragging out all the bits and pieces which have all been boxed away, which is a bit hard to find stuff sometimes, and start getting it all together. Our modified side mount intercoolers are next. Fortunately, when I pulled them off the vehicle previously, I left all the bracketry and everything attached to them and just wrapped them up in bubble wrap and put them on the shelf. It just made it a lot easier with this stage of the reassembly. There is also a bit of stuff that I don't really sort of touch on, like there's a new washer squirter motor fitted on the front there behind the intercooler, and all the piping and everything related to that's also been refitted. Front tow hook receivers up next, obviously the unit that I fabricated a few videos ago. I've had to remove the black vinyl cover on the end of the chassis rail there to get access to one of the inside bolts. The bolt for the bottom of the receiver goes up through the underside of the chassis rail, so I need to get a socket in that through that hole to be able to get all the bolts in. So now that I'm finished, that can go back on, and she's all done. Quite a few brackets and bits and bobs there hanging out to dry, guys, after I've just finished painting them all. Most notably the AC condenser over there, looking really good. I spent a lot of time on that thing, cleaning it, straightening out the fins, all that sort of stuff. It's come up really good. At one stage I was really concerned that I might have to replace it because it was quite blocked up with crap. But it's taken a lot of effort, but I have got the thing to a point where I'm happy with it. So yeah, it's great to get a bit of stuff out here drying and painted. As soon as they're ready to go, I'll be going on the Fairlady. So I was just about to fit the AC condenser, guys, and I noticed there was a little bit of a gap that I hadn't spotted before between the radiator and the front radiator support panel there. There was about a 12mm gap down in here between the radiator core and this. So that was a really good way for air to bleed out of this area. When your AC condenser goes in front, there is a little bit of a gap underneath it, which I am going to fill with foam. But even if the AC condenser is sealed, it means that air can get through the AC condenser, hit the radiator. Airflow always follows the path of least resistance, so it's going to be easy to go through an open hole that's 12 or 13 mil wide all that way along there than it is to push through the radiator core. So ideally we want to fill that up and seal it off, and then when the condenser goes in, the condenser will be sealed on the sides and across the bottom so that it connects to the radiator in a sealed fashion, so that when air hits the condenser it then has to push right through and can't shoot out the sides. So I spotted this and I've actually just test fitted what I've done, so I'll pull this back out and I'll show you how I sorted out the problem. It was a pretty simple fix. So you can see what I've done here, guys. I've riveted some 12 by 12 aluminium on this bottom edge of the radiator. So we now have a 12mm lip that sticks out in this direction. A little bit of shaping on the end here, you know, just to make it all sort of fit up nice. And down here on the back of the radiator support panel, I've stuck some adhesive foam tape on there so that when the two go together, the angle butts into the foam tape and gives a really good seal down there. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you guys. I'll put this back together and we'll get the AC condenser on, eh? And that's how it looks now, guys. You can see we've got a nice seal all the way along there, which should be absolutely fantastic. I'll just lift the Fairlady up a little bit, and so it's at a nice workable height, and we'll have a look at the AC condenser. So this is the core, guys. It's the old core. I've done a lot of work on it, cleaning it up and whatnot, and it's just about right to go on now. But what it needs and what it has from the factory, which is long since gone, is it normally has some foam tape along the bottom. On the back of these sides here, it normally has tape as well. And that... that goes on the other way. Aha, I've got the order wrong. Condenser's got to go on first, and then the radiator. Trevor. Let me get that radiator back out. So while I was fitting this condenser core, I realised that the core actually has a slight twist in it. I'm not sure whether that's from a previous injury to the core, or whether it was just made like that, but rather than stress the core out by trying to bend it back into the shape of the front apron there, I slightly modified one of the brackets and fitted a few spaces on one corner just so that it all bolts up. Alright guys, well that's all in now and all sealed up. And a couple of little hassles, but nothing really to speak of. There's not a lot of room to work here at the bloody front of the Fairlady, and when I jam a camera and stuff in there, I'm bloody tripping over my own stupid feet and stuff. I'll give you a quick look at what I was talking about down the side here, as far as the seal between the condenser and the radiator goes. So I think you can tell that's a seal there. I've got a really tiny bloody viewfinder on this thing. It's just terrible. So I think you can see that that's the seal that goes between the condenser core and the radiator there. Anyway, it's all sealed up. It's all sweet. So the radiator is sealed to the radiator support panel. The AC condenser is now sealed to the radiator. And next thing I think I'll do is throw on the center brace, and then I might put the condenser fan on. So yeah, I'll get into that, eh? Yes, I've definitely tapped those holes out down there. I'm still occasionally finding the odd one that I've missed. Just because. Hopefully this should just bolt straight up. Quite a lot of cleaning went into this AC fan as well, as with a lot of the parts that are off the front of the Fairlady there. They had silver overspray from, I guess, various front bar paints and things on the car. But yeah, it's been a bit of a thing all along. With any used parts that I've replaced, they've required major clean-ups to get rid of all the old overspray off them. A few more bits and pieces out there drying out after being painted. They've all been painted in KBS. Obviously brake booster, power steering fluid reservoir, a few bits and pieces. Hopefully they'll be ready to go on the Fairlady pretty soon. Alrighty. So I'm just setting up to fit the power steering fluid reservoir that I painted this morning. I painted this in KBS Moisture Cure urethane. It's a really hard product. I'd say probably even harder than powder coating. It's a paint, obviously a lot of you guys probably already use it. It's basically the same as Pour 15, which is pretty expensive in Australia, so KBS is our sort of equivalent out here. Hard to spray, easy to brush on, but it's hard to spray. It tends to want to run and tends to want to sort of get fish eyes in it really easy. It takes a lot of prep work to be able to kind of spray it and get a good finish, which I've managed to do on this and quite a few other items that require a really chemically stable paint finish. Because this has hot power steering fluid in it, I thought I should really go the extra effort and paint it with something that I know that would be up to the task, the same as the brake booster that I've done in this same batch. Brake booster painted in this same KBS because it's also completely brake fluid resistant as well. So anyway, there it is. You can see it's an NA power steering fluid reservoir, which I've changed over to. I've deleted all the hiker stuff on this car, and I've got some Z-spec grommets, some new Z-spec silicon grommets for it. I've got some of me funky fasteners that I've sort of put together, and yeah, let's mount this on the car and see what it looks like, eh? Just another quick thing that I didn't mention, guys. You've probably noticed that there's an AN fitting welded on the side of there. If you go back over the videos, or most of you guys are probably aware of what I've done with that, how I've changed all the power steering fluid lines and fitted a cooler and stuff. That was just part of that. But if you hadn't seen those videos, you're probably wondering what it is, so you're just going to have to go back and look for it. There you go. Righto, let's fit it up. Looks good to me. Next. Yep, that'll do. Next thing I have here, guys, is the coolant overflow tank. I'm not using a standard coolant overflow tank in this, as again it blocks an awful lot of the passenger side intercooler, and in my way of thinking, that's just not something that I'm prepared to compromise with when it's so easy to get rid of it and move to something like this, which I feel is in a better location and easier to monitor. It's a better unit. Now, I bought this online from one of the Z suppliers who have quite a bad reputation for being rather unscrupulous in their dealings, as in they have been they've been accused, shall we say, of copying everyone's products and getting them made in China and stuff like that. But this is, I think, a unit that they acquired the sort of copyright for legally. Now, these units, as far as I know, were designed by a New Zealander called Mungie Z or Mungie Z. He's a YouTuber as well. He has a YouTube channel, so look him up. He does a bit of Z stuff and a bit of race car stuff. I'm sure he designed this many years ago, and he actually sold the design to this mob in the US. And again, they had them made in China. So it's not bad. The quality of it isn't too bad, but these brackets were quite wrong, so I had to modify them quite extensively, hence the need to repaint it, because I did make quite a bit of a mess of it to try and get it fit properly. So be aware, if you do buy one, it's probably not going to fit very well, and you may have to modify the brackets to get it to fit. But it is a good unit. Other than that, it was still a lot cheaper for me to buy this than to even make it myself, which, you know, I can't complain about. And the welds and everything are all very nice. It does have a nice cap on it. But again, there was a problem with the cap, because they unfortunately don't understand when they copy things and make things what the function is. You can see the hole in the cap there. I actually drilled that because the unit was completely sealed. So you can imagine, if you are using this as a radiator coolant reservoir, your coolant pushes back into there, rises up and down in here, and the only way it can do that is with a vented cap. Like if it's completely sealed and there is an O-ring on it to seal it and everything, well, that becomes pressurized in there and the coolant can't force its way in. And when it does force its way in, it's then under pressure to go back out. Again, just, you know, a ridiculous oversight on the part of the people who are making the thing. They just really aren't aware of what they're doing. So I just drilled a slight, tiny little hole in it. All it needs is a tiny little hole, just something to give it a little bit of ventilation. And there it is, repainted and ready to go. So I'm probably going to have to take this out again later, but I want to get it off the bench and somewhere safe, and putting it in the car really is the best thing for it. Just because I still have to paint my battery tray and stuff where this goes. So this is actually going to have to come out again. But we'll go and mount it up anyway, guys. You can see how it looks. Came up rather well. And so yeah, let's go and fit it up. So it does now fit very well in the space here, guys, but as I said, with the brackets the way it came, it didn't fit and required quite a bit of work. But you know, that's all part and parcel of building cars, you know, isn't it? I'm sure you're all aware of that now. So for now, you just stay right there. But, pretty happy with it. Just another piece to the puzzle. But it is starting to look quite good. I guess the next thing that's got to go in is that brake booster. That's all painted and ready to go now, so I'll think I might just make preparations for that and drag that down off the drying rack and we'll get that in, eh? Alrighty, so that's about it for the roundup. So hopefully by next week's video I'll have something sorted out with all the hydraulic cylinders and we'll be able to get the brake master and clutch master cylinders both on, whether they're recode or whether they are new units. I hope you're enjoying the progress. Basically I'm devoting every second of my spare time to the thing. So anyway folks, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Always a bloody pleasure to have you here. If you're enjoying Project Fairlady, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episodes. If you're enjoying the episodes, remember to give them a thumbs up because it helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And as always, folks, I'll bloody well see you on the next one. Cheers.